Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Asher Marketing Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Asher Agency, your full-service marketing partner serving clients nationwide. Whatever you need to connect with your audience and share your story, we have you covered. To learn more, visit asheragency.com.
My guest is longtime friend of the podcast, Lynette Fager. Lynette, thanks for doing this again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back.
So this is actually your third time recording an interview, but the second time that interview will be heard by the world.
Yes, indeed.
So you were here in 2022 when the podcast was still young, and we were talking about your then work with a local university, right? And then you came back for an episode that was planned to be like the one we're recording today, and we recorded it.
Yep.
And then about a week later, you reached out and you said, hey, wait a minute, I'm taking a new job, which I really appreciate.
Yep.
And you took a new job.
I did.
And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to catch up with you on the new job. So let's start there.
Yeah.
What was that career transition and why did you make it?
Well, I had been able to spend just under 2 years at Howard Bailey Financial, and that was an interesting career shift to start with because I had spent almost a decade in higher education, and nonprofit is a very.
And you taught at the university where you worked as well.
Yes, I did. So I taught. I was also in the marketing department, director of communication there, and I had the opportunity to shift careers, which was interesting and fun, and go back to for-profit, which was where I'd started. Yeah. And Howard Bailey was a very different experience, very different world, very different environment, and I loved it. It was so different that it really stretched some different muscles that I haven't been able to stretch in a while.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't looking at all. And then sometimes, things just land in your lap. Yeah. And a person who knew me found out that Canterbury School was looking for a director of marketing and communication and said, hey, you should give this person a call. And I was like, I don't really know if I want that. But then after multiple conversations with some of the other leaders in that team and the new head of school, I was like, yeah, maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. So I had the opportunity to start at Canterbury in August. And it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. Because you're starting right as the school year is starting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I got there and like a couple weeks later, students were there, and I spent 10 years in education, but that was higher education, and K-12 is a different beast. And my office is actually located in the middle school building, which is also a different beast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's been a ton of fun, but it's really again stretched me, which is great.
So did you have any prior association with Canterbury? Any family go there to school? Okay.
No, I knew a couple faculty members because they happened to also be graduates of HU. And then I didn't actually realize how many people I knew that were part of administration or had been part of administration. So when I got there, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I didn't realize you worked here. And I'd pass people in the hallway. And so there were connections, but not overly strong ones. So it was just I knew the right people that were in the right places.
Yeah. So a little bit of trust where I know people who are here. Yeah. I trust those people, so therefore this is probably a good move.
Yeah, it was very much a trust exercise, but also I had the really cool opportunity to almost with no pressure involved, because I had said I wasn't interested in the job just based upon like where I was at in my career and the things that they were, the job description that was put out there. And then I get a call from the person I know who was there, and she was like, would you just be willing to meet with this other person on leadership?
You had said the equivalent of no.
I had said the equivalent of no. And she just called me up and she's like, would you be just willing to have a coffee with one of the other people on the leadership team? He just wants to pick your brain, get to know you a little bit because he was newer to the area. And he and I had a conversation, and it was a wonderful conversation. He challenged me and my thinking in some ways, and we were like geeking out on some like data stuff and marketing stuff, which was really fun. And so walked away from that conversation, and I kind of walked away going, okay, this this is interesting. I'm intrigued by this. And not long after that, I get a call from the new head of schools that wasn't even there yet on site.
Yeah.
And she's like, we need to chat. We need to have a conversation. Met with her.
Wow.
And really then as I just talked with more people, I was like, no, this is going to be a good move. It's going to really challenge me. And it has. But
Well, good for them for making the case, and good for you that they came back and they were like, no is not a good enough answer.
Yeah.
So how much of this was, you and I have both a passion for education, right? So how much of this was, I want to get back to that world?
In the beginning, I was actually kind of like, oh, do I really want to be back in education?
Yeah.
But the more I thought about it, there's something about education that if you're in it and you've got that bug, it's hard to get away from it. Like I realized how much I missed kind of that the calendar of academia where you come in and you have that excitement and then you have that ebb and flow of the learning process and the joys that go along with that and the challenges. And the more I had those conversations and the more I just spent some time thinking about really what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go and kind of the legacy I would want to leave behind, that was, I love the idea of being able to help inspire and grow. And at this point, I'm not teaching, but that's okay with me. I still get to be adjacent to it, and that's wonderful.
Well, and I know this is a cliche, but it's also true. Definitely being on a campus, whether K-12 or college, it kind of keeps you young.
It really.
I mean, I started teaching again at Indiana Tech, ergo the vest. And I need all the help I can get staying young, but it's when you're in a classroom with people who, have only been on this earth for, a number of years, 18, 19 years, you're learning a lot about their world and how they see things, and it challenges some of your preconceptions.
It's so well put, and it's absolutely true. I felt that when I was at the university, when I was teaching, because there was always something new that they were teaching me. While I was teaching them like foundational elements, they're reminding me of what's actually happening outside of that. And now being at Canterbury, there's students around all the time. And like I said, I'm in a middle school building, which is, my kids aren't to middle school age yet. So that was also a eye-opening experience for me. But
probably scary in some respects.
a little bit. Middle schoolers are a wild ride, but it's a lot of fun. And we also have a lot of students who come and go out of the office space too, which is just, there's something about that energy that it's kind of addicting in some ways. And you're right, it does keep you young. Yeah. Sometimes I really do feel really old. There are those moments where I'm like, oh, you weren't even born when this song was a hit. Yeah. Like that's a real kick in the pants. But then
I once, this is even probably 5 to 10 years ago, I made a reference. We were talking about irony, and I said, it's like 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife. You understand that reference. Nick understands that reference.
No.
The students looked at me like I had 5 heads, and I was like, oh, you have no idea who Alanis Morissette is. We got to move on. So, I feel it.
Yeah.
So, let me go back to Howard Bailey for a second, because you left there on good terms. And I think sometimes that's harder than leaving a job where you can't wait to move on. So how did you have that conversation? This is the career development part of the show. How, if someone is in a position where they have it good, they like where they are, but there's an opportunity they want to pursue, how do you think people can respectfully stay on good terms with the former employer while saying, I'm moving on and I'm doing something else?
Honestly, of all the places that I've had to leave, and I've never liked leaving a job, really, but Howard Bailey might be the one that was hardest, because I was enjoying my time there so much. I was enjoying the people and the experience and learning and the job I was doing, the work I was doing. Yeah. And I think for that experience, it was really, I tried to give as much runway as I possibly could, which I think is huge for a lot of people. But also it was a lot of honesty and being very candid in those conversations of like, if I had been looking, I would have told you, but I wasn't. This landed in my lap. Yeah. And then outside of that, I was hard at work for those couple weeks, a little bit beyond a couple weeks, making sure that I had done everything I could to document, to prepare, and then also spending a lot of time with the people who were going to be taking over that position. Or even I spent multiple conversations with the leadership at Howard Bailey, looking at the position that I had been in for 2 years and saying, okay, what do you really need in order to succeed? Because there's always that question of like, if I leave this position, do they need somebody who's exactly like me? Do they need somebody who's got this skill set? Do they need somebody who brings this to the table? And a lot of that, those conversations I think were really helpful. And my goal was absolutely to set them up for success and still be able to, because we're literally like right across the street from each other, still be able to.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think of
exactly.
that. Yeah.
Like my
You're going to have to drive past them. Yeah.
Exactly. I added maybe 30 seconds to my commute, but just being able to still communicate with that group of people that I enjoyed my time with so much. Yeah. But I think the piece of that a lot of times is people go in really defensive when they want to or need to or feel like they should be moving on. They go in defensive. And it doesn't have to be that. It can be really, truly, I had all the respect in the world for this place, but it's not where I'm supposed to be right now. And that's okay.
Well, and good for you for striving to leave the position better than when you found it. One of the reasons I asked that question is back when I was 23, I worked for the Massachusetts Port Authority, and my boss was a former Army Ranger who was literally one of the toughest people I've ever met in my life. And he was terrifying. Turns out a super nice guy, great leader, but just you did not want to be on the wrong side of him. And I, at 23, had to go into his office and say I was leaving. He couldn't have been better about it, but I probably lost a week of sleep saying, no, I'm going to be moving and I'm leaving. And it can be done. You can leave on good terms.
You can, but it does take it. It's hard to do, especially if you respect the people you're with. It really is. It's a balancing act, and it comes with some humility and confidence, and it's never an easy choice, I don't think. But it was a good transition, especially if you know where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, and it's a two-way street too. I mean, good for the folks at Howard Bailey for receiving that well. You can only control your end of it, and you're still leaving your past employer with a problem, right? But
absolutely,
you sound like you took good care of making it, less impactful than it could have been. So good job.
Yeah,
good job.
You.
So tell me, for people who may not be familiar, I think many people who listen to this will be familiar with Canterbury School, but how do you describe this place that you work to the rest of the world?
Canterbury School is a independent school, which 20 years ago, I couldn't have told you what that meant. But having kids and now being in this world and even now learning more about the whole education sphere, K through 12 education sphere, being an independent school does set us apart. There's a lot more opportunity in some ways, a lot of flexibility you can have, a lot of freedom when it comes to that. But we are a K through 12 school that really is a college preparatory school. Our students across the board have a lot of freedom, and they also have a really interesting learning environment. So I have a love and hate relationship with the idea of small class sizes, which means everybody is known. But that's not really what it's about. The idea is that you are very much known, and instead of conforming everything to a standardized test, which has its pros and cons, there's more ability to learn and experience and dive into curriculum in a way that's much more tailored to the students in that classroom. And I've met some faculty who they blow my mind because I don't know that I could ever teach first graders, but there's a faculty member who's been at Canterbury for years, and her love for what she does is so inspiring, and walking into her classroom is just so joy-filled. And it's a lovely experience that I think is very unique to a place like Canterbury, because a public school, though they are wonderful and can be great, don't always have that kind of freedom. So,
well, and I mean, it's complex because it's competitive for all schools now.
Absolutely.
Right? And the public schools have a mandate, not of their own doing, to, in many cases, teach to the test. I think they do a phenomenal job despite that challenge. And, it's about what do parents want in terms of the education for their kids. And we're really fortunate where we live that there's a lot of good choices, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So what's different, and we probably could talk about this all day, but what's most different about being in marketing at the K-12 level versus higher ed?
We're taking a quick break from our episode to talk about something that can elevate your brand to new heights: digital marketing. With a team of creative minds and strategic thinkers, Asher specializes in everything from eye-catching ad campaigns to social media management and website design. Visit asheragency.com for more info.
Oh, that's an interesting question. The group in which you are marketing to, I do believe, varies greatly. When you're marketing to higher education, yes, you are marketing to the parents because they're going to be the one who, in a lot of cases, have a lot of sway in that. But you want to catch the attention of that incoming college student, and you're really marketing programs in that. Especially where I was, we were focused on our program offerings more than it's not like we were focused on just one marquee of a name. When you're marketing to K-12, it is all about the teacher, or not about the teacher. It's all about the
parents.
family. It's all about the parents. It's all about the individuals who are still guiding their young kids. The older you get in that K through 12, the more the focus becomes on helping students see the value. Because then as you start to get to middle school and high school, those students might have more sway with their parents to say, I do or I don't want to go here. But it's all about marketing to the parent and showing them the value of an independent education. And for some, it's also conveying what does that really mean. And so there's a difference between, a private school and a public school and an independent school. And also, I think the interesting piece of that puzzle too is we're marketing to a region that has, to your point, a lot of academic options. And so it's not only talking about what sets us apart, but also hoping to draw people in from outside of the Allen County because we can do that. And that's an opportunity for us. So it amazes me the number of individuals who, when we look at who's viewing our profile, how far away we're seeing people really, truly look at Canterbury School because of the reputation that it has, which is very encouraging and very inspiring too. It's a very different world.
Well, Ann Borney, who is the widow of our founder, Tim, was a teacher there. So I knew a little bit about Canterbury through her and her experience, and it does have a really great reputation, right? So, and again, in an area where we're really fortunate to have a lot of good choices. So what are some of the things you're working on? Some of it is probably figuring out how you got where you are because you're still fairly new, but what else is at the top of the to-do list?
I feel like really in a lot of jobs that don't have that academic calendar that they have to speak to, once you've been there for 3 to 4 months, you kind of have the feel of it. And you've done education. That's not really the way it goes until you've kind of experienced the whole academic year. So right now, I feel like I'm along with the students kind of in that first part of the second semester where we're just seeing what's going to come next. But what I'm spending my time right now really focusing on is evaluating the brands that we have, the channels that we're communicating through, and making sure that our message is clear and coherent. Canterbury has a fantastic reputation, but it also hasn't had the best megaphone in recent years. And that's a lot of schools, a lot of organizations, not just schools, a lot of organizations bumped into that. So how can we exemplify and how can we showcase that message across a bunch of different channels to reach the audiences we're trying to reach? Also, we know that Fort Wayne is continuing to draw in new families. It's a growing city, especially with a new hospital coming in and all of those types of things. So how can we continue to showcase what we offer in those areas?
And not depend only on legacy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The family dynamic has changed so much in the past 20, 30, 40 years that we can it's no longer just this idea of, well, my parents went here, my parents' parents went here. It's with the new, the new groups, the new families that are coming into the area and the areas of Fort Wayne that are continuing to grow and expand. it's actually been really interesting to learn more about this area. And I feel like I've always been very involved in Fort Wayne, but this is a new facet of that because I'm learning about these areas that are growing in ways that I didn't realize they were.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really a big part of what my focus is at the moment.
And how big is the team that you're part of?
Well, technically, I'm part of the whole advancement team, and we've got a team of, quickly counting offices in my head. There's like 10-ish of us in the advancement team.
That includes people who are focused on fundraising, events, and all that stuff. So
my team.
Yeah. So you're communicating not just to families and prospective families. It's also donor communication. You do an internal communication.
Absolutely. Yep.
You do an athletics communication.
Yep.
Okay, that's plenty. How do you manage all that? How do you balance it?
At the beginning of the school year, I would say that I was trying really hard to just keep my head above water.
Yeah.
Now, as I learned more about this team, because it's me, and technically marketing communications is me and one other person. And so there's a lot. And happily, she has been there a couple of years longer than I have. So she has a wonderful wealth of like knowledge and information about the school. So right now, it's building a lot of relationships inside the Canterbury community to make sure that we're all on the same page and finding those areas where I can count on this individual to help with this component or this organization to work with this piece of the puzzle. And really mapping out a calendar, as we were talking about a little bit ago, just mapping out like every single day, who's getting what messaging, how is that being communicated, what divisions are being targeted, what office is sending that communication. And that was absolutely a piece that I brought directly from Howard Bailey to Canterbury when I got there was I can't do the job you're asking me to do unless we're going to invest some time building out truly what this calendar looks like so that with a couple clicks of a button, I can find out like, hey, we're spending the next 2 weeks really focused on the middle school division parents and that communication's coming from admissions. And then the following weeks, this is what we're talking. So that being able to really map that out and show people just how much we're communicating, how often we're communicating and what our topics are was a big piece of that puzzle for us.
Well, a couple things that resonate there. One is the value of figuring out what those signature touch points are, whether it's a big fundraising event, you've got one of those.
Absolutely, we do.
Whether it's, enrollment season and then working backwards. It sounds kind of obvious, but not everyone does it. And you cannot be reactive in an environment where you're doing that much. The other piece that resonates is really knowing that your first audience is the internal audience and kind of, for want of a better term, selling them on what you need and what you're doing so that they're part of the team, right? And you're not just focused on external stakeholders because if you do that, people are going to say, where's my voice in this? So
absolutely.
Very smart to get them involved from the get-go.
And they're the ones who can tell the story better than I can even. Like they know these kids, they know the experiences. Some of these faculty members have been here for 20, 30 years. As we rapidly approach our 50th anniversary of Canterbury in existence. And being able to communicate with that internal audience has been easily one of the most rewarding because of the experiences, the stories, and the unique opportunity that these faculty members and these staff members create for these students. I've been blown away when they tell me, because I come from a public school background. That's where I did my education, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there are some traditions that happen within Canterbury that I would have had no idea were happening until I got there. And I love being able to share those stories. For example, there's an event for our lower school students that's called the Fairy Tale Ball. And if you don't know the context of it, it just looks like a party. But the context is that this is the culmination of a couple of weeks, almost maybe even a couple of months of study that our first and second grade, our students are doing, talking about the foundational elements of story. What creates story? What creates a character? What creates, how do you, when you read a book, what are you really learning? And so as they build, all of this curriculum comes together as they're learning about it in not only their social studies classes, but their English classes, but their math classes. All of these things are building together so that they have this huge fairy tale ball where they get to come and dress up and be a part of something that's celebratory of their work, but also really does showcase for them what they've been learning in class over these past weeks. And those are the experiences. That's one of a couple dozen examples that I could talk about, but those examples where they remind me of what makes education so fun and rewarding, and reminds me that I could never be a first or second or third grade teacher because that is not my shtick. But being able to share those wonderful experiences are very, very cool.
Well, and it's a good reminder that if you involve people in the story, not just tell them the story, but let them be part of the story, it becomes their story too. And they're going to want to share that experience from a different perspective. And if you can do that with kids at that very formative age, that's probably going to make an impact that, just reading in their general direction wouldn't do alone. And you've got a brand that's got some history. You've got a brand that a lot of good things to build off, but it's still competitive out there.
Oh, for sure.
Still hard work. Especially in today's environment when parents, rightfully so, want what's best for their kids. You got to tell a pretty compelling story to get them to listen.
Absolutely.
So how are you doing that? What tactics are you using? Is it everything? Are you a little bit less reliant on print than you used to be, or is print super important? Social media is part of the equation. How do you strike that balance in terms of tactics?
Social media is part of the equation for sure. Print is less of a... we still use it, but it's definitely not the landmark that it once was for us. Like any school in the area, we're relying very heavily on word of mouth, which is important. But also for us, we realize that if somebody's coming in from outside of Fort Wayne, if they're moving to the area or something along those lines, they're not necessarily just searching for, they're not necessarily just doing a Google search for this. There are avenues where we can really market who we are and what we offer to specific audiences, specific to education. But we are also really focused at the moment, too, on helping this immediate community, right in our backyard, realize what all we do. So I feel like right now I've spent a lot of time leveraging the relationships I already had in Fort Wayne to be able to say, hey, did you know that Canterbury does this? I didn't know it, and I've been here for 30 years. And what I'm hearing a lot from people is, I maybe I knew that, maybe I didn't, or I had no idea, or, oh, absolutely, I love that story. But social media, absolutely. Back to the original question for this. Social media is definitely one of the levers we're pulling on for sure. And really also kind of going back to some of the tools of the trade of web and updating and focusing on some of that SEO, knowing that people are doing a lot of searches these days through AI and making sure that we've got, that we're pulling on those levers as we should as well. And it's kind of like, in some ways, coming back to those marketing roots, but still realizing that there's some new tools.
Well, this is a little oversimplified, but one of the conversations we've been having at Asher for quite some time is that in the AI environment, your website's not less important; it's more important. Because where do you think that content, those answers through an answer engine, are coming from?
Absolutely.
So it's like you need more depth of content. And it needs to be more reflective of the answers people are looking for, so you stand a chance of being found when people are asking those questions. Yeah. So our job just got exponentially harder. How do you like that?
Oh, it's so great. It's so fun. And honestly, it's really odd, I think, to be in marketing at the cusp of this whole AI revolution, because everybody is learning all at the same time. And it is a wildly fast-paced experience, faster than anything else I've experienced.
I agree.
And it's scary, but kind of fun too.
Yeah, on alternating days. There are days when I say, can we please go back to 1992? And then there are days that I say, no, I'm on the rocket ship and this is kind of fun, but those days alternate.
Absolutely.
So, it's not only are you learning a new job, but you're also learning that at the same time. So best of luck to you, I guess.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Lynette, I really appreciate you being here to catch up with us. Hopefully we don't have to do this a fourth time. Well, we could do it a fourth time. Yeah. And maybe just maybe this one will actually see the light of day.
Exactly.
Well, thanks again, and thanks to everyone who took the opportunity to listen to this episode of the Asher Marketing Podcast. We will be back next time with another great guest, and we hope you'll join us then.
Thank you for tuning into the Asher Marketing Podcast. We hope that you found today's episode insightful. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us grow.